Hey everyone, I'm going to make a quick video for you here on how to save money when booking international plane tickets. I'm using Google Flights, which is an excellent tool. However, it has some weird idiosyncrasies, and if you don't know how to work with those, you might end up spending more than you need to when booking plane tickets. So I'm going to get right into it. I'm trying to get from Davao City in the Philippines to Budapest, Hungary, and I'm trying to do that around the end of the month. It looks like based on this grid that the 31st is the cheapest day to travel. It's $877. Okay. And so that's what we have here. All right. 2 stops, 24-hour flight, 877 bucks. Okay. So in order to save money, we are going to use what is called a positioning flight, which is basically a short, cheap regional flight to get to a different airport that has cheaper fares to our final destination. So I'm in Davao down here, which is a pretty remote spot. The way that we find the positioning flight is we do a separate search using the Explore tab of Google Flights. So Davao City to anywhere on our given date, all right, and we set it non-stop because we don't want to have a layover on a positioning flight. That'd be ridiculous. So non-stop, and then set a price cap because the whole point of the positioning flight is it's supposed to be cheap. And that gives us Manila, Singapore, Cebu, and this is probably Iloilo. Yeah, okay. Iloilo is not an international airport, so we're going to ignore that. But we have Cebu, Manila, and Singapore. So these are three options for alternate origin points for our flight to Budapest. So now we're going to do three separate searches from these places to see if we can save money by starting our trip from there as opposed to Davao. And so this is Cebu to Budapest on July 31st for $612. Okay, that is already far cheaper than okay, so it's 612 to be fair plus $28. So that is what, 640 bucks, which is $237 cheaper than what Google Flights is giving us initially. Okay, so we save a lot of money by doing that. Manila is even less, $495. We can get to Manila for 57 bucks. So that's like 550 versus 877. And then Singapore to Budapest, this is the wrong date, on the 31st, is $427 plus the $85 positioning flight, so it's about $500 even. I mean, that's like 60% of the cost of the fare that Google Flights gives from Davao to Budapest. Okay, so using this positioning flight at the start of your trip, you can save a lot of money, and it's not going to take any longer because this flight has 2 layovers already. Okay, and so our cheapest option is Singapore. So it's a direct flight to Singapore and then 1 stop. So this is actually only has 2 layovers, which is the same as the flight that Google recommended. I don't know why Google doesn't piece all this together for you and give you this as an option, but for some reason you have to sort of do it yourself. All right. Moving on from that, I'm going to show you what to do if you have like a lot of options for where you can fly from. Say you're flying out of Europe, say you're flying out of like India, a place with a lot of different international airports. You don't want to be performing like 15 different searches. So what I do is this. Well, okay, we have Kochi to Seattle, September 9th, and $938. Okay, so what I'm going to use is this site kayak.com, and what Kayak allows us to do that Google Flights does not. Google Flights will allow you to do a given origin to an entire country, but it won't let you put an entire country as a origin destination. Okay, or as an origin rather than destination. So Kiwi will allow us to put India, even an entire continent, as our origin. So that's what I'm doing here. I have India to Seattle. Okay, so it looks like we can fly from New Delhi to Seattle for $588. All right, that is not Kochi. We're flying from Kochi. Okay, so to see if we save money by flying from New Delhi to Seattle, we go see what it costs to fly from Kochi to New Delhi on the date of travel, and it's $80. So $80 plus 588. That's a lot cheaper than $938. And again, has the same number of layovers. It looks like this might actually get us there. Well, no, it's not faster. It might even be the same flight, but for some reason, when you book them separately, it's less. So I always do this. You should too. One thing to keep in mind is you can do this to get to your final destination as well. Like you can do a second round of this instead of going from Cebu here to Budapest, or Singapore was our cheapest option. So instead of going from Singapore to Budapest, we could go Singapore to like Europe, okay? And that will give us a bunch of options. And say it was much cheaper to go to Paris, or I mean, it really is not worth it in this scenario. But say it was like $200 to fly to Paris. Well, we might be able to do this again, where we have another positioning flight at the end of the trip from Paris to Budapest. Say there's like a Ryanair flight for $30 on that day. All right, we might be able to save a lot of money. I know that that's not the case here because I'm booking this a week out, and domestic flight even within Europe is going to be a lot 1 week out. So I'm not going to bother with that. But if you're booking travel like a couple months in advance, that's another thing to research. All right, good luck. One final thing I want to point out is the risk that you assume in booking separate itineraries as opposed to booking everything as one itinerary. If you book your entire trip in one go, say a flight is delayed, canceled, your airline will figure out how to get you to your destination. Or if they're not able to do so, they'll compensate you for that. That does not apply when you make separate bookings with separate airlines. If your initial $30 positioning flight is delayed or canceled and that causes you to miss your subsequent flights, they're not going to compensate you for that. They just have to get you to the nearby destination that you booked with them, and they're not responsible for anything that comes after that. So that's just something to keep in mind. You're running a little bit extra risk. You can mitigate that risk by going extra early, maybe even the previous day. If it's a new city that you don't mind exploring for a day, it can even be an opportunity to do that. But that is just something to keep in mind.